Welcome to Cryptic Chronicles. Here, we dive into eerie tales, spine-chilling legends, and the kind of stories that linger in your mind long after they're told. If you're a fan of the mysterious and the macabre, you've come to the right place. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more haunting content. Now, let's step into the shadows for today's story, Smelly Cat, a tale of survival, secrets, and an encounter with something far beyond this world. Phoebe Buffay was no stranger to hardship. A homeless teen in a small, quiet town, she spent her days scavenging for food and nights under the cold embrace of dark alleyways. Her solace came from strumming her battered guitar in the town square, hoping someone might spare a few coins. Life was bleak but predictable, until the day she met it. It was late autumn, and a biting chill hung in the air. Phoebe huddled under a tattered blanket behind the old bakery when she first noticed the cat. It was mangy, its fur matted with mud and reeking of decay. The stench was overpowering, rotting fish mixed with something far worse. The cat's eyes, a sickly yellow, gleamed unnaturally in the dim light. "Hey there, little guy," Phoebe said cautiously, her voice trembling. She extended a piece of stale bread, but the cat didn't move. It just stared, unblinking, its gaze heavy with something Phoebe couldn't name. From that night on, the cat followed her. No matter where she went, it trailed her, its stench announcing its presence long before she saw it. At first, she found it odd but harmless. Then the hallucinations began. It started with whispers. Faint, unintelligible murmurs that seemed to come from the shadows. When Phoebe turned to look, there was nothing there, except the cat, watching her with those piercing yellow eyes. Then came the visions, shadowy figures lurking just beyond her sight, their forms twisting and writhing like smoke. They whispered her name, their voices dripping with malice. One night, as Phoebe tried to sleep in an abandoned building, she woke to the sound of scratching. It was the cat, clawing at the walls with frantic desperation. But it wasn't alone. The shadows had come to life, their ghostly forms crawling toward her. Phoebe screamed, clutching her guitar like a shield, but the figures only laughed, a guttural, bone-chilling sound that echoed in her ears long after they vanished. The horrors grew worse with each passing day. The cat's stench seemed to cling to her skin, no matter how much she tried to wash it off. Phoebe's once vivid dreams were now nightmares filled with disjointed visions of blood, fire, and despair. Desperate to end her torment, Phoebe decided to confront the source of her misery. Her nerves were frayed, her body weak from sleepless nights filled with unrelenting visions and screams. Clutching a broken broomstick she'd scavenged earlier, she cornered the cat in the alley behind the bakery. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a pale, sickly light on the scene. The cat sat there, as if waiting for her, its yellow eyes glowing unnaturally in the dark. The stench was unbearable, suffocating, but Phoebe stood her ground. The cat let out a low, guttural growl that sent a shiver down her spine. "I'm sorry," Phoebe whispered, tears streaming down her face as she raised the broomstick. Her hands trembled, her grip slippery with sweat, but she swung with all her strength. The broomstick struck the cat's side with a sickening thud. The cat let out a screech, its body convulsing as it collapsed into a lifeless heap. Phoebe dropped the stick, her breath coming in ragged gasps. But the victory was short-lived. A low rumble filled the alley, vibrating through the ground. The shadows around her began to ripple and twist, pulling themselves free from the walls and ground. Dozens of them emerged, their forms formless and ever-shifting, their hollow eyes burning with rage. The air grew icy, and a voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the alley. "You shouldn't have done that." Phoebe's heart pounded as the shadows closed in, their black tendrils reaching for her. She stumbled backward, tripping over the cat's limp body. She could feel their cold, claw-like grasp brushing her skin, sending waves of icy terror through her. "Leave me alone," she screamed, clutching at the cross around her neck, a gift from a kind old woman she'd helped weeks ago. "Leave me alone." The moment her fingers wrapped around the cross, it seemed to grow warm against her palm. A golden light erupted from it, flooding the alley with a radiance that burned away the darkness. The shadows recoiled, letting out shrieks of agony as the light pierced them. The largest shadow, towering over the others, bared its jagged teeth and lunged for her. Instinctively, Phoebe held up the cross, the light blazing even brighter. The shadow let out an ear-splitting roar as it dissolved into nothingness, taking the other shadows with it. When the light faded, the alley was silent. The cat's body was gone, leaving only a dark, oily stain on the ground. Phoebe collapsed to her knees, clutching the cross as tears streamed down her face. She stayed there for what felt like hours, the weight of what she had done, and survived, crushing her. But as the first rays of dawn broke through the clouds, she stood, tucking the cross back under her shirt. The stench was gone, the whispers silenced, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, Phoebe felt free. The alley fell silent as the last of the shadows dissolved into nothingness. The oppressive chill lifted, and for the first time in weeks, Phoebe felt the air was breathable again. She staggered to her feet, clutching the cross around her neck, its metal now cool against her skin. After that day, everything went back to normal, at least for the town. The bakery still smelled of fresh bread, the buskers still played in the square, and the world moved on without a trace of the shadows or the cursed cat. But Phoebe couldn't stay. Every corner of the town felt tainted, every dark alley a reminder of what she had seen. Though the nightmares had stopped, the memories haunted her. She couldn't walk past the bakery without smelling the cat's putrid stench in her mind or sleep without fearing the shadows might return. She knew she had to leave. Phoebe began saving every dollar she could scrape together. She played her guitar on the streets from dawn until dusk, singing songs for passers-by, her voice carrying a raw, haunting quality born of her ordeal. She skipped meals, wore the same ragged clothes, and avoided spending even a single cent unnecessarily. Each coin felt like a step closer to freedom. She avoided the places where the cat had followed her, refusing to even glance at the alley where she had faced it. Weeks turned into months. By then, Phoebe had saved just enough to buy a bus ticket to New York City. She chose New York not because she knew what she would find there, but because it was far away, a place where the shadows of her past couldn't follow. Before leaving, Phoebe stood at the edge of the town square, her battered guitar slung over her shoulder and the cross that had saved her life resting securely against her chest beneath her shirt. She gazed out at the familiar streets and crumbling corners of the place she had once called home, a place that had scarred her soul in ways no one could ever comprehend. The next morning, she boarded a bus to New York City, leaving the cursed town, and the cat, behind and determined to start fresh. After arriving in New York, Phoebe began a new chapter in her life, filled with unexpected adventures and new experiences. She quickly immersed herself in the city's vibrant energy, playing her guitar in coffee shops and on street corners. It was during one of these days in the city that Phoebe met 5 strangers, each of them as unique and complex as the city itself. What began as chance encounters soon blossomed into deep, unbreakable friendships. They became her family, grounding her in a way she had never known before. They never questioned her eccentricities or the haunted look in her eyes. But Phoebe carried her secret like a stone in her chest. She never spoke of the smelly cat or the horrors it brought. Yet, on rare, sleepless nights, she would pick up her guitar and sing a strange, melancholy tune. Smelly cat, what are they feeding you? Smelly cat, it's not your fault. Her friends laughed at the song, finding it quirky and endearing. They had no idea it was her way of coping with a nightmare she could never forget. She could only hope that she would never see those yellow eyes again. And so, this is the story of Phoebe and the haunting secret she carries, a tale of survival, resilience, and the courage to start anew. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more captivating content. Your support